Okay, students. So the story which will be under discussion today, that is The Last Leaf, and this is the second lecture about this short story written by O. Henry. And before we move forward, it's really important just to recollect the previous ideas. Anybody who is ready to tell me something about the main characters of this story? How many characters do we have in this story? We have three characters in this story. Number one, Jonesy. Number two, Sue. Number three, Berhman. And Doctor is also another character, but that is a very minor character which will be included in the play. Can anybody tell me what happened to Jonesy? I mean, in the start, we call it exposition. I mean, from the very beginning, in which you are going to get information about the setting and the characters of the story. What happened in the very beginning? Who are the close friends? Sue and Jonesy. They both were living in the same apartment and they were spending their time. Both of them were artists. But what happened to Jonesy? What she was thinking about? She was thinking about one thing, that she will die soon just because of, basically she is suffering from pneumonia, and she is just having a very negative attitude towards one thing. All the time she was glancing, or she was looking out the window at a creeper plant, and she was of the opinion that at the moment the last leaf of this vine falls, her life would end up. This is what she was thinking. But with the passage of time, what was the role of the Sue in this short story? Was she playing a positive role? Yes, she was playing a positive role, but how? She was all the time curious to bring her friend once again back to the life. Actually, she was the patient of depression. She gave up. She was a pure pessimist. She was very sad, and she left taking interest in every sort of thing in life. Just because of that, her health was falling down. And when the doctor visited, he also approved that she will not improve because she is not taking interest in life. I mean, where there is a will, there is a way. But from the side of Jonesy, there wasn't any sort of will. That's why she declined off, and degree by degree she was declining off, or her health was falling down. Okay. What was the character of Berman? We discussed that personality too. He was a 60 or more than that old personality. He was also a wonderful painter. And throughout his life, he has a dream about one thing. What was his dream? Yes, he wanted to paint the masterpiece in his life. But throughout his life, he was not able to draw it. He could not paint. But how did he paint a masterpiece? Yesterday we discussed it. I mean, everybody knows that she was just thinking about the last leaf. Last leaf is the symbol of what? Hope. And the complete vine, I mean the complete creeper plant was what? The symbol of death, ultimate death. So she was counting down, and she was thinking that the moment it falls, she will die. And this was what he overheard. The conversation was heard by Berman. So what he did, in the cold winter night, he started painting the leaf on the wall. But just because of that, what happened to the same writer, I mean the painter, he himself passed away because he caught pneumonia. He himself passed away. But in this way, he painted a masterpiece on the wall. How? Because just because of the same leaf, when she was counting down and the last leaf was just present over there on the wall, that could not fall just because of storms and the winds, everything was present, but that stayed stable. So it gave a new hope to Jonesy, and she started thinking positively. In this way, the drawing, or the leaf which was drawn by Berman became a masterpiece, and that became the hope of life for Jonesy. This is what we got information. I want you to come towards the it's the truth that it was the masterpiece of the old artist Berman. He always wanted to produce masterpiece, as we discussed. Just see, the old man himself passed away. Why? Just because of pneumonia, because he kept on drawing this leaf in the cold winter night. but he himself passed away, but saved the life of Jonesy. In this way, it became the masterpiece. Next, I'll tell you, when you come across the question that what are the literary devices used in the story, so you come across that for a while. The short story uses several literary devices such as personification. O. Henry writes about pneumonia as it is an old man with evil intentions. Awais, please. And he names this disease Mr. Pneumonia. The story also uses both symbolism and irony in the concept that the title of the last leaf, the leaf is a symbol of life and death. And it is ironic because the leaf falls, but Jonesy does not die. Ironical situation. What you are thinking and thing is not happening, or thing is happening otherwise. So that is irony. Themes in the last leaf include friendship, sacrifice, hope, and art. How can be the hope? Yeah, how can hope be the theme of this short story? Anybody would like to throw some light? Hope, resilience, strong fortitude, strong determination. I mean, it was the leaf which worked in the recovery of Jonesy, or her own willpower. Nothing is good or bad. Nothing can do anything to you unless or until you let that thing drive you crazy. So the moment she was thinking negatively, so she was declining off. But the moment she started thinking positively, she improved. But there wasn't any role of leaf. Just because of her negativity, it was happening. Okay? आगे बढ़िएगा. जी, एक मिनट. The most important thing which you are supposed to keep in your mind, and the question you will attempt in your paper, most of the questions will be included from these things. I mean, what is the exposition of the short story? Write down something about the rising movement or idea or rising movement of the short story. What was the climax of the story you have gone through in your course? And it cannot be about this story. You can also discuss the other story which you have gone through. And that next thing, falling action. And the last thing we call denouement. Denouement नहीं से पढ़ते, that is denouement or conclusion or resolution इसको कहते हैं, where everything gets resolved. अब मैं इसको elaborated form में भी आपको दिखा देता हूँ. Next slide. देखिए बेटे, when you talk about exposition and if somebody does not have any idea about exposition कि ये है क्या चीज़, तो आइए देखते हैं. कहते हैं exposition is what beginning of the case where characters and setting are introduced. तो आप बता सकते हैं कि कौन कौन से characters beginning में introduce हुए. हमें तमाम characters का पता चला. सबसे पहले दो friends जो एक ही जगह पर एक ही अपार्टमेंट में रह रही थी, वो सू एंड जॉन से, और इसके साथ हमें एक और ओल्ड आर्टिस्ट का जो इसी फ्लैट में इनसे थोड़े फासले पर रह रहा था, उसका भी इंट्रोडक्शन, बर्मन, उसका भी इंट्रोडक्शन हुआ. प्ले हुआ कहां पे? ग्रीनविच के मकाम पर. यह भी बताया गया कि स्टोरी का जो मकाम है, टाइम और प्लेस की बात की जाती है. तो एक्सपोजिशन वो जगह है जहां पे आप प्रैक्टिस और मकाम की बात करते हैं कि भाई ये छोटी मोटी चीजें जो है वो आपके सामने रख दी जाती है. अगली बात है राइजिंग एक्शन. राइजिंग एक्शन के अंदर क्या चीज आप डिस्कस करेंगे बेटे? अगर इस स्टोरी के हवाले से अगली स्टोरी जो आपने पढ़ी हुई है, जो गुजर चुकी, कहते हैं where the protagonist, I mean the hero or heroine is faced with the situation of interest. आप बता सकते हैं इसका राइजिंग एक्शन क्या था? When Jonesy fell ill and she started thinking that she will pass away, and the moment the last leaf falls, she will also face death. This was something like that. Haji, climax. What is the rising action? What was the rising action of the play? आप बता सकते हैं कि हाईएस्ट पॉइंट कब पहुंचा? नहीं, नमूनिया तो हुआ. Basically, she improved, she recovered. But on the other hand, what happened? Berman passed away. Okay. Falling action, where the impact of the decision is traced. G. She started recovering and she saved her life and her attitude was changed. और आखिर में क्या हुआ? Resolution. She did not die. She survived. And she was feeling very sorry that whatever she was thinking was absolutely wrong. She did not die. She recovered. आगे चलिएगा. अब इसको elaborated form में और दिखाता हूँ. Plot. अगर आपसे पूछ लें कि what is a plot in a story? What do you know about that? Elaborate it. Or write down something about plot. ये भी कह सकते हैं कि write down something about the plot of the short story. What? The last leaf or the necklace. तो क्या कहता है? कहता है in storytelling, plot refers to the sequence of interconnected events that make up a narrative. This is the sequence of events which will take place. It is not just a list of what happened, but how those events relate to each other through cause and effect, driving the story forward and shaping the overall narrative. So what is a plot? Anybody would like to tell me? This is the sequence of events, how they were starting from the beginning till end. So the sequence or the order of the events which took place in a story, we call it plot. आगे चलिएगा जी. एक्सपोजिशन ऑफ द स्टोरी. अभी मैंने थोड़ी देर पहले बात की, अब उन चीजों को एलाबोरेट करके आपके सामने रखा है. मैं कहता हूं द एक्सपोजिशन ऑफ द स्टोरी, द लास्ट लीफ इज द इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ द मेन कैरेक्टर्स एंड द सेटिंग. इन दिस स्टोरी the main characters are Sue and Jonesy, two young artists living in Greenwich Village, and setting is a small setting in a small apartment in New York City during a cold winter. The exposition also introduces the central conflict of the story, which is Jonesy's illness and her belief that she will die when the last leaf falls from the vine outside her window. Gee, what is exposition? Anybody who would like to tell me about that? This is basically where the characters or the main characters will be introduced, and where the setting will also be discussed before you. And this is how you're gonna write down something about the story, whether that is the necklace or the last leaf. आगे चलिएगा. अच्छा जी, क्लाइमेक्स की बात कर रहे थे बेटे. क्लाइमेक्स का मतलब होता है हाईएस्ट पॉइंट. यू नीड टू बी वेरी सीरियस नाउ. लास्ट लीफ. In O. Henry, the last leaf, the climax occurs when Jonesy, having believed she would die when the last leaf, last ivy leaf, fell, sees the leaf still clinging to the vine after a stormy night. This movement of realization, where she sees the leaves' tenacity as a symbol of her own will to live, marks the story's turning point. She recognizes that her belief in her impending death was unfounded, and this inspires her to fight for her recovery. So what was the climax, bhai? What was the climax? Where she started thinking about her own death, and the movement, the turning point, comes when she realizes her own mistake, that this is something about her own idea and thinking. Otherwise, nothing happens. What somebody is going to think about that. So her thinking was ironical. She was thinking in terms of dying, but she survived. Instead of Jonesy, Berman dies. So situation was ironical. आगे चलिएगा. Resolution, जिसे denouement भी कहते हैं. Last, the story then reveals that Mr. Berman, an old artist, painted the last leaf onto the wall during the storm to give Jonesy hope, sacrificing his own life in the process. Towards the end of resolution, एक ऐसा पॉइंट या डिनोमा एक ऐसा पॉइंट है जहाँ तमाम इश्यूज जो स्टोरी में चल रहे होते हैं उसका हल होना बड़ा ज़रूरी है. और स्टोरी के अंदर जो रेजोल्यूशन, जो कंक्लूजन हमने देखी, जहाँ पर तमाम चीज़ें रिजोल्व हुई, वो इस तरह से हुई कि जॉन्जी जो कि खुद नमूनिया की पेशेंट थी और ये सोच बैठी थी कि उसने ही मरना है, बजाय इसके वो आर्टिस्ट जो मास्टरपीस बनाना चाहता था दीवार पर, जिसने पत्ता बनाया, सर्दी की वजह से वो खुद तो रुखसत हो गया लेकिन उसने जॉन्सी को बचा लिया. एंड टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ दिस स्टोरी, द इशू ऑफ जॉन्स डेथ गॉट रिजॉल्व्ड. आगे 21